FahrBike. This is my first look at one of their products, and I gotta say, the look, well, it's industrial. And it should be, because this is a cargo bike. It's called the Urban Carry Pro. And if you're like me and have an interest in cargo bikes, you'll see why this one gained my attention. The look, it looks like a cargo bike mixed with a little bit of cheese grater and maybe a little bit of cruise ship. There's a lot to cover about this bike, so let me just get right to it, starting up top like I like to do at the bars. Nice and beefy with a decent cruisery rise to them. Not too narrow, not too wide. They look comfortable, which also applies to the lock-on grips, which are comfort grips for longer journeys. Beside those, a twist throttle. If you ride bikes every day, a twist throttle comes in handy. This one has a little surprise. That's an on-off switch to enable or disable the twist throttle. Beside that, the shifter working through the bike's 7 available speeds. Stopping duties are handled by hydraulic disc brakes. These feature a motor cutoff switch for added safety. And make a mental note about those brakes because I'll be coming back to them. For now, back to the bars on the left side, a full comfort grip nestled up to the e-bike selection pad. A type that is new to me with the large, very large plus and minus controls. Those are for moving through the pedal assist modes. The power button is on the bottom on the right side. 2 more buttons, one for the sub-menu selections, the other a headlight control. I'll be coming back to these side buttons as well. Also note there is an included bell. All of the input selections are displayed on the center-mounted LCD. That's a color center-mounted LCD, easily viewable in broad daylight, and it's one of the few color displays that don't flicker when I try to show it on camera. That was the boot up sequence. Here it is running. You can see even at an angle in broad daylight, it's easy to see. Rider comfort, key for a cargo bike since riders are going to be on them for a long time every day. That makes the inclusion of an adjustable stem a good bonus. Moving down to the stem spacers, or above them, check this out. Part of the assembly is adapted to route the wiring and cabling in a nice, clean manner, almost BMX-like. It's little details like this that tell me a bike is assembled with some thought behind it rather than just pulling parts off a shelf. I like it. Moving down through the headset, we can see the frame mounts are built in for the included front rack. A rack that comes with wiring and is the location for the bike's included headlight. I really like this. Wiring already routed, it's plug and play. Below that, a suspension fork that should be enough for cargo and delivery runs on city streets and alleys. It features a preload adjuster and 60 millimeters of suspension travel. That fork is also the mounting point for the included fender, a polymer fender that stays put once it's bolted in place. Under that, the tire. On the Urban Carry Pro, that's a tire with a street tread, size 20 by 3.0. Just about right for a cargo bike. Now let's circle back a bit, back to the brakes. I told you I would come back to these because there's something unique when it comes to this bike's braking system. Not that they're hydraulic or that there's a 180 millimeter rotor up front. It's that there's a 180 millimeter rotor up front, but when we go to the back, it's a 203 millimeter rotor. I ride a lot of mountain bikes and normally this is reversed with the larger rotor up front. In the case of this bike, and I'm going to guess here, I suspect this was done for a couple of reasons. Number one, this bike has a rated capacity of 500 pounds. Pair that with the fact that many riders use the rear brake as their primary, and I'm honestly thinking this setup was to address that. That is to say, address reality rather than the idea of how something should be ridden. We'll see if it makes a notable difference. One lack of mention on their website about this bike is if it has a torque sensor or a cadence sensor. I see no cadence sensor on either side, but I've never seen a bike with a torque sensor that didn't mention it, so we'll be seeing about that too. For now, just know it has alloy pedals and a large single chainring. It's not too much going on up front. Start moving to the rear and we'll see all sorts of stuff designed to keep the bike on the go. The shifty bits are worked with a Shimano Tourney derailleur. Nothing fancy, but these are reliable, so I understand the choice. The rear gearing, also a common sight. Also Shimano, a Shimano freewheel, and that's nestled up to a motor that's taller than it is wide. I don't usually see that. This is a 750 watt motor. It's rated at 65 newton meters of torque. Like the front wheel, the rear is encased in a polymer fender. Above that, a very large rear rack, 27 inches of cargo space. I couldn't find a rack rating, but it bolts to the frame, so I'm sure it's capable of handling just about anything you want to put on it. On their site, they showed it loaded with various items, and even allude to passenger duty, so plenty of weight holding capabilities. At the very rear, an included taillight, bright enough to be seen during the day, and so is the headlight for that matter. The frame is large, and it's aluminum, and this one's sort of a champagne color. I don't know what they call it. It's also offered in a silver or a gray. The welds smoothed, a nice touch. As far as design aesthetics go, there's only so much you can do to dress up a cargo bike. FahrBike's route was to double down on the industrial with metal honeycomb covers down low. They'll serve a dual purpose. They'll keep stuff that's hauled from getting into the wheels, which is nice. And by the way, those are metal, at least at the back and kind of in the middle. But you can see this is clearly a purpose-built bike, while still making the most of the purpose, I guess. I mean, I like the industrial. I think it looks cool. It was the looks that attracted me to the bike. The black up front is the only branding on the bike. It's also the battery covers. And that branding, it's vinyl lettering, so if you want to stealth things out, it's easy to remove. Industrial, utilitarian, whatever you want to call it, as far as cargo bikes go, I like the look. I really like the honeycomb grates and the expansion potential. I even like that this center stand springs outward to give a nice large footprint. Important when a bike's going to be loaded down with a lot of weight. And those smoothed welds, yeah, pretty. It's obvious to me that this bike was built not only with the job at hand in mind, but also with a little rider comfort in mind too. Grips set up to be easier on the hands, the adjustable bars, that stem being adjustable, positioning right where someone would want it, and there's the Velo saddle, wide and roomy looking. Somewhat fitting that I'm talking about comfort and it's branded as a comfort saddle. When it comes to bike seats, bike saddles, width's not the only comfort item. Up and down's important too. Slam down low, riders as low as 5'4", at least the ones that I've had on this so far, say it's comfortable. Height-wise, up to 6'4". At least that's my experience based on others that I've allowed to sit on the bike and a couple ride it. And that's the key features and enough jabbering. Let's get this thing out on the road for a shakedown test and see how it does. First impressions, well, this goes back to some stuff that I just know from testing bikes, but longer bikes sometimes ride very much like a longer bike. On the Urban Carry Pro, I'm cognizant that I'm on a longer wheelbase bike, but I wouldn't guess that it's as long as it is. Because there's quite a bit of nimbleness, it's easy to transition onto sidewalks and cut back into streets, which is not a given with the cargo bike because often they're designed with factory floors or industrial settings in mind. And I'll keep saying industrial, but it applies. This bike, friendly on the streets, or sidewalks in this case. Let me get it to some streets for you. This bike has a rated top speed of 28 miles per hour. Mine came pre-programmed, locked at 20. I didn't have enough time to get this unlocked, but I can tell by the power output, 28 will be no problem. As far as the cadence or torque sensor question, this is 100% a cadence sensor bike, easily evident by the fact that I can make my own pace. And what I'm talking about here is under assisted pedaling. You'll notice how I've slowed down and then I'll speed back up. I can pedal at whatever cadence I want to and stay at the max output, a telltale sign of a cadence sensor bike. That's not good or bad, it's just cadence sensor. Some people actually prefer that. Realistically though, I think most riders of a bike like this are going to be on the job or utilizing the utility or cargo capabilities and will most certainly be cruising around with the throttle pegged and probably not pedaling. And for that, I have quite a few descriptions. Spunky, comfortable, cruisery on city streets. If you're interested in pedal assist, the bike has 5 pedal assist levels and they're the usual output, meaning that I can go up to about 10 miles per hour in pedal assist 1, which you're seeing on the displays, kilometers per hour. That'll stagger a few miles per hour for each mode up to pedal assist 4, and 4 and 5 will max out at the top speed. They just get there at a faster rate. If you're a twist and goer, the throttle will shoot right up to 20 miles per hour. And here's how that throttle cutoff switch works. See, I'll press it to disable the throttle and then press again to re-enable. Another thing that stands out about this bike or any long wheelbase bike is stability. Long just feels better. It has its benefits, stability down an open road. There is one thing on this bike though that I didn't expect, and that's the loudness of the motor. This is easily the loudest motor I've ridden, and anyone close is 100% gonna know that an e-bike is coming. But noise doesn't translate into a rough ride. Now, it's not the smoothest e-bike by any stretch, but but the front suspension does enough to make it tolerable. Acoustically, there are some rattles here and there, but they mysteriously go away when the bike is loaded down with weight, and also the motor gets less loud with more weight. Doesn't make sense. And here you go. How about tight turning on a long wheelbase bike? Nice. Let's take a moment and talk about gearing, because some e-bikes have what I call the run out of pedal effect. This bike, as tested going downhill, can exceed its top rated speed and still have pedal. Though it is a cadence sensor bike, so you can always fake it till you make it if that's your thing. The brakes do stop the bike well, slow it, especially with a load on it, which I tested using a passenger precariously perched on the rear rack. I didn't get the passenger seat. I believe that's sold as an option, so I had to make do. 120-pound passenger up some small hills without a problem. Speaking of hills, that's another make it or break it point for e-bikes, especially ones that people will be using for work. This bike has a 48-volt, 750-watt motor with 65 newton meters of torque. I've ridden countless bikes in that same range, but this one, I think they understated the torque output, because this large hill, the one I regularly test e-bikes on, this bike churned right up it, throttle only, without missing a lick. The slowest speed was well above average, with me cresting the hill at above 16 miles per hour. Impressive, and right up there with the most powerful e-bikes that I've tested. As far as range, I have limited time with the bike, but they state a range up to 60 miles per charge with a high capacity battery, 50 miles for the lower capacity battery, 15 amp hour versus 20 amp hour. I can tell you that throttle only will get you about 20 miles per charge on that 20 amp hour battery. So don't doubt the pedal assist one would start inching close to their claims, especially if flat ground was involved. I gotta say I'm impressed. For a brand I wasn't familiar with going into this, and seeing the current price, which I'll put up in the title, try to keep it updated, but at the time of making this video, in my opinion, very fair for the market that would be looking for something like this. There are a lot of little added features and nice components, like that shut-off switch for the throttle. The display that's easy to read even in daylight. That's not always a given with color displays. But this one, vibrant and rich colors even in daylight. That D-pad, I like the up and down arrows. Very easy to control, the nice comfort grips. The hydraulic brakes, look, that 180 to 203 flip-flop, I think it works. I think it works for a cargo bike. The rear rack, definitely a plus. Now, I don't know how much the front rack is rated at holding, but I did put a person on the back, and no problems other than their comfort. They do make seats for that. I like these side guards. They're metal, rear and middle. Now that black up front, that's actually plastic, and it's the battery covers. One other thing I tested but didn't record is after a light rain, I got out just to see how well the fenders would do. They would keep my feet and legs dry. They did that, and they spared the back. There wasn't anything splashing up on the rear rack. Now, I've talked about accessories. There are a couple of modular mount points. You'll see down here low. That's for footboards, side racks, and so on. And also, I like how the metal in the middle there kind of makes a chain guard. Here's the motor rating for those of you that want that info. The rear light also functions as a brake light, always a plus. As I mentioned in my ride, that 60mm suspension fork, it's enough for city streets and alleys. And going with street tread tires, I think that's going to be welcome by those that don't like the roar and roughness of knobbier tires. A couple of notes. Number one, the center stand, it sort of springs outward as it moves forward, which you have to keep a watch on your foot for because it will smack and be painful. And contrary to how it looks, there's actually enough room that it doesn't drag on things riding around as long as you aren't rolling over curbs. And I think this cable routing is super cool and worthy of another look. Are there any dislikes I have? Well, nothing bad. Some are just mere curiosities. For starters, those side covers. They're metal at the back and in the middle, but they're plastic up front, and the front just doesn't fit as flush. Possibly because it's removable, the battery sits behind that. It can be charged in the bike. If you want to take it out, here's the side cover removed so you can see the battery. You have to take the other side off, 4 bolts, to get to the lock. And I would show you the battery removed, but I can't find the keys, which I have to find before I send the bike back. I've always been a sucker for smoothed welds, so naturally I like these. And I like the cruise ship tower looking seat post base. I'm not sure if that's the look they were going for, but that's what I see. And also like they include a strap loop slot. It's only fair that I note that the smoothed welds are only where it's visible a peek behind the curtain, and it's less impressive, but still acceptable. I also have conflicting opinions about the display control pad. I like the big buttons, that plus and minus for the up and down, and turning the bike on and off is easy. However, the two side buttons, the top one is for sub-menu controls, the bottom for the headlight, turning it off and on, they're less intuitive while riding, especially reaching over, at least for my small hands. It's difficult to get to. Your mileage may vary there. That's my only real nitpicks. Overall, the bike gets a strong passing grade and the power output is amazing. It's clearly built to handle regular heavy loads. A good thing for a cargo bike. Plus, as cargo bikes go, the Urban Carry Pro looks uniquely cool. And that's my first look at a FahrBike product. I'll link down in the description if you want more details. Note that some links are affiliate links and this channel may earn a commission from their use. Now, I want to know what you think. What do you think about this bike, cargo e-bikes, e-bikes in general? Comment below with your opinions. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.